Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, remember that Ekiti audio tape? Well, that is actually currently trending in the country at the moment, and so much has been said about the tape, even though up until this moment we still have not gotten any official reaction at all from the Nigerian government. But so much has been said, and as a matter of fact, the All Progressives Congress has actually called a press conference saying the government should do something about the tape, and saying those mentioned in the tape, people like, well, Obasanjo and the others, should be tried. And of course, some civil society groups now actually had a rally 2 days ago, that's on Valentine's Day, where, well, among several demands, they actually asked for INEC to actually reconduct the Ekiti State governorship election. By the way, that election has actually been, well, affirmed by the Court of Appeal, because the Court of Appeal on Monday actually said, well, there was nothing wrong with the election and retained Fayose as governor. But let me just say this, that I'm now being joined on the program by, well, you want to call him the man who actually leaked that tape. I'm talking about the publisher of Sahara Reporters, Obasanjo. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Tell me, when you got this tape, what exactly crossed your mind after listening to the content?
When I got the tape, I listened to about 2.5 minutes and recognized all the voices, because it wasn't just about Obasanjo speaking or Fayose speaking or the other characters involved in it. You could see their character in their voice. You could just tell, you know, in my head, I could tell where they were sitting, how they were behaving. You know, it was all scripted, planned out. So they had Fayose come in and say, I don't want to be part of this meeting, you know, because this army general doesn't listen to me. You know?
Let me just pause you there and let's take a listen to that tape. We'll just take a listen to part of the tape now. It's an audio tape. Let's take a listen.
I now call him. I said, what instruction do you give to your guy? What instruction do you give to your guy? Which instruction did I give to him?
I said that I should come when His Excellency is going home to escort him. And any other thing he needs tomorrow during the election, we should provide it.
And we get me. So what will happen? I will begin from this beginning. If you want to call it, let him tell him that I don't want to go against him. And we always evidence. I was not there. I was the beginning of this arrangement. I was in my house, people have started contact and told me he has briefed him and gave me his number, because I never met him before. And he told me very safe that he will perform, and if you have any issues, call me. And he told me that I have made it clear to him that you are donated for this election. King of Promise has told me, I've never met him before in my life. Will you call me with instruction from me? Each time we explain this thing to this man, his form of everything is clear. I don't want to know where we are now. You know, we had so many meetings that I don't believe that I have to be in this situation now. The idea of having a ship work together, everybody should work together. There's other circumstances whatsoever, whatever will be disarmed. Other circumstances whatsoever. Can be happy man tomorrow night. The sky is your limit. And if I'm unhappy at the same time, I am not there for tea party. I'm here on assignment by the president. So that when next time we want to ask somebody, no, it will be you. We've got a long way. It's one thing I want to tell you. So we are anticipating tomorrow. Because it is new, we have the mail, we have the these people inside the store, stabilize our people and the only
Well, by the way, we understand Caleb Olubalade was actually not there. That it was supposed to be Jalili Adesina, right? Okay, yeah.
So, secondly, one aspect of it that was very instructive was that I thought about Bola Ige, and you know, two of the guys who were in this meeting on this tape were accused of having a hand in his mother, and I just thought this guy sat down and planned the death of Bolaige, and the guy was just killed, and today justice has not been served. And they must have done several other things like this, you know, just ordering soldiers around to commit crime. Probably you cannot imagine what they have been doing to the police and other security agencies. And
it's quite embarrassing that a military general, brigadier general, would be treated, because he was actually hassled. There's no question at all.
I had no doubt that it seems as if they had a gun to his head, because there was a point where his voice cracked and he said, "Do you want me to cry?" You know, and I couldn't believe it, that a brigadier general in the army would, in the midst of civilians, as they call them, bloody civilians, be asking to be allowed to cry, instead of, you know, in my view, either walking out or taking a very stern action against them. But this happened that he wasn't the only person there. He had officers who accompanied him there, you know, which was mentioned to us in another interview I did with the captain who recorded this. And those officers were, in fact, more angry than their brigadier general superior, because they got there and they just couldn't stand it. And that's what prompted Captain Coley to record this conversation and let the world know that the military has been thoroughly bastardized. And they were going to repeat the same thing in Osun State. And apparently, they were going to repeat the same thing in Nigeria on February 14th if the election had held. But we were lucky to lay our hands on this tape and let the whole country know about it.
Speaking to Captain Coley now, for him, did he tell you, didn't he realize the risk he was taking when he actually recorded and then made up his mind to release this tape to you?
Well, he did. He said why he was making efforts to release the tape, particularly to General Buhari, because he wanted to release to someone who was in the military or who had been in the military. They had tapped his phone and recorded some of the conversations. So when he came back to see his brigadier general boss, he told him that before you kill me, I'll kill you. And they had actually sent a military police officer to go get him arrested. And the guy was, well, kind enough to call him and said, "Look, I've been asked to bundle you, tied and handcuffed for punishment. So wherever you are, you better get out, because these guys are going to kill you." I think he took that risk knowing that it was dangerous to do what he did, but he also realized that he needed to do it for the Nigerian people, and that's where I think we have to respect this captain for doing what he did. And another thing I think is that what he did will make more people in the army or the security services who have little conscience and courage to do this type of, resistance against illegitimate orders, because they were asked to do something wrong. But ab initio, from the beginning, this whole thing was designed to rig. And if you look at the characters, it's not only designed to rig, it's designed to kill. The characters that were involved, you had Chris Uba, who had kidnapped the governor before in Anambra State, engaged in wanton destruction in Anambra State, killing, brought in as the ringleader of this group with his own set of soldiers from his state.
That's Anambra.
And yes, actually they say he came from the 82 division. That's where they gave him. So yeah. He brought in money, weapons, and came into the state, and he was, coordinating the rest of them. Now you could hear the general saying, "I've been having emails, conversations with Chris. Chris doesn't even believe me," and all of that. And then he meets with the southwestern arrowheads of murder, criminal activity. I can say that anywhere. People like Iyola Mishore having been indicted before. You had Adesinyo sitting down there. You had Fayose, who during his first term as governor had been accused and indicted for several murders and corruption. And you had Obanikoro, who also has a very, very controversial past from Lagos. All of these characters sitting down there and plotting against the people of Ekiti State and plotting against democracy. What they did, and that was recorded on this tape, could have brought down a government in a sane society.
And that's quite true. And yes, unfortunately, nobody has resigned over this. Nobody...
I mean, as we speak, Obanikoro's name is sitting in front of the Nigerian Senate to be approved.
And he sure would get their approval.
He will take a bow again. In fact, I won't be surprised if the APC senator sitting on the Senate refuse to show up, give some excuse as to why they won't oppose him. But it's important that people know that he might become a minister again. And if people don't face consequences for this criminal type of activities, you get even a larger scale of criminal involvement. And
talking about Obanikoro, he's actually threatened to sue you and Sahara Reporters. Has he done that? Have you gotten any
not that I'm aware of. My hunch is that he was threatening to sue to shut up more people who would like to talk about this. And probably if he shows up at Senate and they ask him questions about the tape, he will say, well, I'm in court. But not only has Sahara Reporters not seen his summons, all the other individuals and organizations, news media platforms that he threatened to sue told me they haven't received a summons yet. So maybe he just sued them in spirit. I don't know. But I do not doubt the fact that there are courts who engage in this kind of ridiculous and frivolous suits. And what we say in that regard is that we meet in court. He also threatened to sue us in New York, and we have capable hands who can take care of that. We have no doubt that, as they say in Yoruba, that Tishigidiba fe shirete,
what do you make
which means is that, a clay, an image made in clay, if he wants to disintegrate, it will ask to be taken to a swimming pool.
And
yes.
Which is quite true.
Yeah.
Now, what do you make of Fayoshe's reaction? Because we saw Fayoshe actually coming out at a political gathering saying, well, that, if you actually listened to that tape very well, you would discover that what I was actually only trying to do was to prevent rigging. I'm quoting Fayoshe now. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he said.
But that was different from his initial reaction, where he ridiculously and stupidly claimed that it was fabricated by voice software. So now he has admitted that this was his voice, and it is not up to him to determine or define what he did. This is what law enforcement could have done. This is what public inquiry could have done. But we have been denied of all of that. But
are you surprised that we haven't seen that up till this moment, the security agencies in this country have done nothing about this this audio tape that is out there in the public?
The reason why that is happening is because all of the security agencies are involved in this kind of criminal conspiracy against Nigerian people. And when that happens, what do you expect? You can't expect the same people to judge themselves. You can't expect them to investigate or prosecute themselves. Because if you look deep down, this is what has been happening in elections, especially in the last few years. This is their own scientific way of rigging. I mean, nobody, not many of us could have suspected, even though we had, some doubt as to how he won the election, that they could have rigged the election in this very, very clean and scientific way, and that they left no trace, except until now, of how that abracadabra was done by Fayoshe, the Nigerian military. And also, do not forget that the president was directly indicted on this. And his reaction so far was also that this was fabricated when the Wall Street Journal asked him about this. So they were all involved from the top to the bottom. Like I said, maybe someday we'll have an opportunity to have people face the consequences of what they did here.
Are you surprised that the people of Ekiti State, you would have expected that by now there will be protests and all of that in Ekiti, but we're not seeing that. And some people are saying, look, that's one of the reasons why you could say Fayoshe actually won the election and that it wasn't rigged, that if it was actually rigged, you would have seen people come out on the street and, protest.
Well, I think you have to understand that a lot of people have been so abused over the years that they do not even understand the character of abuse anymore. I'm seeing across this country a lot of what we call the Stockholm Syndrome, where people resubmit themselves to punishment or actually fall in love with people who are abusing and punishing them, who have brought pain and destruction and sadness upon them. It happens in every facet of public life in this country. So I'm not surprised. It's the same Ekiti people who have come to accept what is defined as stomach infrastructure. But, you know, behind all of that is this mighty federal government that has made it possible for the likes of Fayoshi to even be candidates in election and win election the way and manner we've seen it. You know, let me tell you something. The American society is still dealing with acts of terror committed by the KKK, which is the white supremacy groups. You know, that acts that were carried out in 1960s till now.
Long time
Some
ago.
of those guys are just going to jail now. You know, but in those days also you would have asked the same question: why are people not fighting against KKK when they bomb churches? Why don't they protest? Why do they go back to the same church and just act as if nothing happened? You know, if people are internalizing pain in this country, it doesn't mean that they accept it. They're just like looking for the right opportunity to exhale. And you saw that happen in Burkina Faso. Who would ever think that's just what, you know, Blaise Compaoré had done almost every election season, that he would try it and in 3 days he'll be out of power. And it just took a few cans of gasoline, you know, and people on the street and the army unable to control it. And that part of the world is today history. So I don't think that the mere fact that we are not seeing protests in Ekiti today means that people of Ekiti in general have accepted this.
All right.
They're probably looking for their own day.
All right. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I want your thoughts now on the postponed elections. I'm talking about the controversial. It's becoming controversial now, elections, even though it's not taking place. Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. I'm still with Sowore right here in the studio of TV360. Now let's talk about the elections. Now we were supposed to vote on the 14th of February, St. Valentine's Day, and you know, just days before that we were told the election wasn't going to take place again. Of course, INEC has come out to say, look, this election was postponed because the security chiefs actually wrote to it saying it would not be able to guarantee security on election day, that it is busy with the insurgency in the northeast. But then we also saw the president, for instance, coming out to say it was not really about the insurgency, but that INEC too wasn't prepared because quite a number of people had not collected their voters' cards. Now, I just want to play the president's soundbite now at that media chart. I want you to take a listen to it, and when we come back, I want to get your reaction. Let's take a listen to the president.
People have not been fair to me, and I think the issue of rescheduling elections, I wouldn't want to say change of date for election. For the international community, I sympathize with them because in Africa there are cases, a number of cases. I've been a leader in Africa for quite some time now. I've been handling such cases where governments reschedule election to extend tenure. So whenever you talk about rescheduling elections, they are a bit apprehensive that is there any attempt for the sitting president to extend his tenure? But this is not the case in Nigeria. In Nigeria, the law makes it very clear that there's a range of time elections could be conducted, not less than 30 days to the inauguration of the new government, and not more than 150 days to the inauguration of the government. Within this period, the election could be conducted so that it does not affect the inauguration of the new government. But within that period, if there are issues that could, that will require the electoral body to adjust the dates, it's not, they can always adjust. You recall that in 2011, the first election, I was already in my village in Bayelsa State. The eve of that election, I was already had traveled to my village before I was told that the INEC have announced suspension of the election by 2 weeks, and I came back. So INEC did not discuss with me. I don't decide date for elections, but INEC work with security services because they must provide protection The security services help to carry their materials, like the Air Force help to carry their materials, the Navy help to carry their materials. And of course, mainly they have to protect the staff of INEC, of course, ensure peace and security in the country. And I also remember that in 2011, when nobody even expected any crisis, 10 young people were just slaughtered. So there are a lot of security implications in conducting elections in Africa generally. So if the security services, they did not consult me anyway, if they should tell INEC probably for one reason or the other, they should just within this period. Ordinarily for me, it's supposed not to be an issue, but this is a period where we make everything, make it look as if it's a big thing.
There you had the president, quite surprising I should say, saying he actually was not consulted, that the security chiefs did not consult him, and that, you know, let me just add to what he said there, that besides the issue of security, there was also the problem with the permanent voters cards. What are your thoughts?
If anybody had been following our reporting on the issues of elections, you would have known that we've made it, in fact, one of our duties to reveal plots along the line that President Jonathan did not want to leave and did not want to hold elections. I think one of our stories emerged almost immediately after he became president in 2011, where he had met with Pastor Bakare, Yinka Odumake, who now works with him, to give them $100,000 bribe. And one of the things he said at that time is like, why are we doing an election? I want a 6-year term. And so that I can leave this place. I would have done 8 years. I'm done. And we've been following ever since. As of October last year, we also wrote a story saying that there are no plans for elections, that President Jonathan doesn't want to hold elections. And we have been writing consistently 2 weeks before the election that these are the plans. Before and after the NSA went to London and set off courts to a person who asked him a question that, well, they had advised INEC to postpone. INEC responded immediately that they got no advice from the NSA. And all of this led to one thing or the other, and eventually they went to the Council of State meeting. It was at the Council of State meeting that the NSA and the service chiefs was handing INEC a letter, you know, a security report saying they're not ready for elections. So with due respect to the president's office, I think the president is lying, but he has not lied very intelligently, in my view. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been open that he's lying. You know, everybody knows that the NSA couldn't have said what he said in London without asking the president first. And if he didn't do that before he went to London, when he came back, the first thing the president would have called him is to say, where did you get the idea of postponement? Where's the letter? So consultations must have happened, specifically because the president also claims during this media chat that he gets a security briefing every hour. So that's true. That means somebody is not doing his job very well. But the truth is that they have no plans for election. And you could see there are people and voices in this country who speak, and you know they are talking on behalf of the president. People like Edwin Clark and the rest of them, including who have said openly that they are not interested in election. They want a government of national unity, and they want the president to implement the results of the national conference he organized. And they have been attacking INEC ever since the postponement. Yeah, of course. Edwin Clark actually calling for the resignation and arrest of Jega. You know, people like the governor of Ondo State, Olusegun Mimiko. So you know all these characters, when they converge around an issue, they are speaking on behalf of the president. Except if the president is living in La La Land, where he just doesn't see newspapers. One other thing the president said I want you to react to. Let's take a listen to him talking about reacting to now reports and speculations that he might be considering removing Jega as chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Let's hear that. I appointed members of INEC. INEC is a standing executive body defined by the Constitution. It is Mr. President that appoints every commissioner in INEC, both the national commissioners and the REC, the resident electoral commissioners, are my appointees. So if I feel that Jega is not good enough for obvious reasons, then I can, by there are provisions in the Constitution that gives the person who appoints the power to remove. And I've not told anybody that I'm going to remove Jega. I've never said so. Yeah, that he's not told anybody he's going to remove Jega. That's what he said there. Well, again, it is very clear that there were plans to remove Jega, and they are coming from his fans and friends, but also members of his cabinet, kitchen cabinet. We have heard directly from the likes of Fani Kayode that they would like to see Jega go. He's incompetent. They don't want to use anything that Jega has put in place. But more importantly, people who are known to be the president's men have filed cases in court, trying to disqualify not only the opposition candidate. As of today, there are 10 cases, 5 of them secretly filed in the last 3 days that we discovered. And there's no one of them, 3 of them were targeted at Jega, including a case filed by the Plateau State government, the Attorney General of Plateau State. And when you want to look for a governor who can speak for the president, the Plateau State governor, because he's the chairman of Jonathan's faction of the Governors Forum.
Yeah, Governors Forum.
They filed a case. I mean, this is public document. So, again, I would say that the president has not lied intelligently.
All right. One more thing happened during the week. As a matter of fact, this happened just a few days ago. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo took everybody by surprise. Of course, we all know, he's been on Jonathan's case for quite a while. But just take a listen to what he said when he called something like his own media chart, if you ask me. Let's take a listen to that.
The observable and what will appear to be happening is that the president has a grand plan. A grand plan to ensure that by hook or by crook, he wins the election, or if it all fails, he scuttles it and creates chaos, confusion, and unpleasantness in the whole country. Because it is the duty and function and responsibility of the security officers to provide security. The president is the chief security of the country and is the commander-in-chief. And if security is required anywhere, anytime, it is his duty and responsibility to provide it. Failure to provide it is dereliction of duty. Pure and simple. Either the president is following his own plan, grand plan, or his aides and associates are working a script. They are playing a script, which of course must have got his endorsement, if not initiated by him.
All right, there we have former President Olusegun Obasanjo basically saying what President Goodluck Jonathan has done with this postponement is just that he's doing his best to win this election by, I'm using his words now, by hook or by crook, and that if the election doesn't favor him, he causes a crisis so that, he just basically doesn't want to hand over. Yeah. Are you surprised at the reaction of President Obasanjo over this issue? Because some people have actually blamed him for being responsible, quote and unquote, for the problems that we have.
I agree with those who blame him. I'm not a fan of Obasanjo at all. In fact, I think he pushed Nigeria to the corner that we're in now. But maybe somehow he has realized, it's just been he's been at his mischievous best by doing what he's doing. Because he likes the limelight a lot. But one thing you can't take away from him is that he has been a whistleblower on people who mess with transition from power. And I was a student activist when he used to warn about Babangida not wanting. He was the one, somehow, in addition to the pro-democracy movement that warned the country about what Babangida eventually did. He was saying it, that Babangida doesn't want to leave. And Babangida, by the time he left, did exactly almost what Obasanjo had predicted, you know, caused the crisis that led us to Shonekon and Abacha. Well, it's on record that Obasanjo also tried to profit from that. He wanted to be the interim president at that time, which was eventually given to Shonekon. And he has since then done that to Abacha. He went to jail. He also was worried that Abacha was not going to go, and he worked with other people on the ground and openly to frustrate Abacha. He ended up in the belly of the beast. He came to power, and when Yar'Adua was going to do the same thing, he came out and said, Yar'Adua is not coming back alive. You know, hand over to Jonathan. And so I'm not surprised that he's doing this. Like I said, he has traditionally been a whistleblower. And surprisingly,
it appears his position is now aligned with the position of quite a number of people, especially the opposition.
Yeah, I guess this is also his way of getting away with some of his crimes against Nigerian people, because now he's become a darling of a lot of people, and you can't take that away. So maybe, you know, he's just trying to give back. So, and again, you can never tell what Obasanjo is up to at any particular point.
But do you believe the allegation by the PDP now that he's probably scheming to head?
No, I don't believe that.
Interim government.
No, you know, the PDP people are. I mean, when you talk about PDP these days, you have to be careful about who you're talking to, because the party has fallen apart, honestly. You know, you cannot call people like Fani Kayode PDP.
And because you talked about Fani Kayode, let me just pause you there. Let's take a listen to his reaction now to Obasanjo's media chat, so to speak. Let's take a listen to that.
He has raised issues and made assertions that are capable of derailing our democracy and creating chaos in the land. It is vital that we consider his motives for this latest outburst and his credentials as a leader and an elder statesman. The truth is that he knows that President Goodluck Jonathan will win next month's presidential election, and that is why he wants to destroy the credibility of the whole process right from the outset. What he's trying to say in his latest contribution is that if President Jonathan wins, then the election must have been rigged right from the outset. This is not only wrong, but it is also unfair and uncharitable. If President Obasanjo has any evidence to prove his weighty allegations, he ought to present it before the Council of State and take it up there. He should also report to INEC itself and present the data of whatever sinister plan he believes that President Jonathan has to stay in power by hook or by crook to them. He should tell INEC whatever it is that Jonathan is doing in order to stay in power by all means, and he should give them all the details. That should be the starting point. One wonders what his motives are. Does he have to rule every government by proxy? Must every leader take instructions from him? Is it a case of, if I cannot control you and tell you what to do, then you must go? Control and domination is an obsession for Obasanjo. That is the bottom line. He is prepared to put even the devil in power, provided he can control him. That is why he is so determined to stop Jonathan and put in place an interim government which he, or one of his surrogates, will head. Obasanjo is not God. Only God is God, and he alone determines the fortunes of men and the destiny of nations.
Sowore, your reaction?
You know, this is what they call ballooning in New York. You know, it's just rubbish. I have zero respect for Fani Kayode. He speaks to the side that butters his bread, and he's just doing his job.
Because a few months ago he was actually praising Obasanjo to the highest heavens.
Yeah, so I won't waste my time and energy discussing him.
But do you really think, I mean, let's look at that allegation, that he actually wants to head an interim government?
But it's all contradictory. In one breath and sentence, he says the man wants to discredit the political process or the election, so that if the man emerges as the winner of the election, they will say it's not credible. And then you turn around and say he wants to put in an interim government. But what Obasanjo was saying in his press conference was that interim government is illegal and it has no place in our constitution, so it should not be allowed. So if Obasanjo already knew and stated openly that there is no room for an interim government in our constitution, how do you then accuse him of something that he told you? It's impossible. So, you know, I mean, I hate to listen to Fanika, you know, and I'm serious.
All right, maybe just before I let you go, one more thing I want you to take a look at. This happened yesterday. We saw former President Olusegun Obasanjo basically tearing his membership card of the PDP now, his PDP membership card in public. Of course, he didn't do it himself. He actually gave the card to someone else to do it for him. Let's take a look at that video, and when we come back, we get your reaction. Your reaction?
Well, like a friend of mine said, it's very interesting that the first time Obasanjo will win his ward is at the time he had no party card or affiliation.
Really? But no election has taken place?
I think he's going to win this time around in his local ward.
Really?
Yeah, I think people, you know, are excited about what he did. And
but did you actually see this coming?
I saw it coming, and if you saw what he did to Jonathan in his book, which we leaked, the existence of that book, you would know that this is nothing. I mean, he skewered him. He was merciless in describing Jonathan as an incompetent buffoon. That's the best way to describe how he took the president to the clinic. So tearing his voter's card is nothing compared to, you know, he had put in place a series of things to prove that Jonathan is a liar. And I think his anger stemmed from the fact that Jonathan lied to them that he would do one tenure, and then turns around and lied again that he never told anybody he would do one tenure. And, you know, for him, probably they have thought about moving on from him to other.
Well, you think that's the point that they started having problems?
Oh yeah, I think, you know, I think he was very clear about that. That we had discussed that you're having only one tenure, and that's the only way we can keep this thing moving, you know. And maybe in addition to the fact that, you know, Jonathan was such a poor performer, you know, I wouldn't think that Obasanjo will be upset with anybody because they perform poorly, because he has some of the worst characters as his friends, and, you know, when he was in power. You can imagine he was the ones that raised the likes of Fayose, Sowore, you know, this was his people.
Exactly.
You know, so, you know, what's the old man that died in Ibadan, Adedibu. Yeah, these are the dregs of this part of the world, and they were Obasanjo's people. They were rolling in the mud together, and, you know, so I wouldn't take it. It would be giving him too much credit to think that, oh, Jonathan's performance is the reason he doesn't like him. Obasanjo doesn't care whether you're a dog or a pig. As long as he likes you, you're fine. But I think the idea that power, you know, he didn't relinquish power after one term might have pissed him off, because he probably have promised other people, you know. Because, like I said, you know, Obasanjo is the male version of a drama queen. You know, he likes drama. That's why he's sharing his thing in public and all that. And I also think he did it preemptively, because he must have been told that he was going to be ejected from the party at all levels. So before they got to him now, he had already, you know, just removed himself from the party.
I mean, that's the card being torn, and it's actually very dramatic. Yeah, very dramatic, because I mean, we heard him say in Yoruba when giving the man the card, we heard him say in Yoruba that the man should just tear the card now to shreds, and that's exactly what the man did. Yeah. But on a final note now, are you confident that we're going to have elections on the 28th of March?
I'm not sure. to be honest with you. But I think a series of events have happened that is almost making it impossible for us not to have elections on March 28th. Obasanjo being one of them. He's coming out blazing against and revealing some of the secrets of President Jonathan and his kitchen cabinet. It's going to be a major factor. I would say that social media is also a major factor that is prevailing at this time, and that is our sector. That has made it impossible for these guys to be ahead of the populace in terms of so many of the things that they could have done, very insidious things against the transition program and elections. But I won't put it beyond them that they have other plans in place. You look at the issue of security, for example, they said in 6 weeks they're going to rein in Boko Haram.
And it would appear the military is actually moving against Boko Haram.
Well, they're moving, but Boko Haram is also getting more and more ferocious inside of Nigeria. They just killed, they attacked, a military checkpoint today. They went to Uba Askari and took over the place. For the first time, they are adding Gombe to the Ekiti. So it looks like the military is out there to provoke Boko Haram and make it very obvious to us that, we can't have elections. You can see it all over the place. And I won't be surprised, if there are more bomb blasts in places that we haven't experienced it before. I think people who are against this election will do everything to frustrate it, including spreading the terror down south. Because today there was an attack on an APC rally in Mrs. Dim Patience Jonathan's hometown. Okrika. Yes, Okrika. And so that and the Niger Delta militants are also being primed to make some statements. So you're going to see cascade of events that will make it look like, there are going to be a lot of spreading of fear that will make people start to rethink whether it's better to just postpone and have an interim government than to keep having an election in which there will be bloodshed. I think they made up their mind that they will do everything to frustrate it. But I'm also seeing, interestingly, a very vigilant society where people are very determined to have elections. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think it's on that note we'll have to leave it there. We see what happens. Yeah. That's just it. Yeah. We see what happens, even though the president has said, well, the 29th of May is sacrosanct, that would have a new...
Well, if you really listen to him very well, because former military dictator Babangida makes me to pay attention to words. He never said elections will hold on March 28th. He just said, no matter what happened, May 29th is sacrosanct.
It's sacrosanct. Yes. Well, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much, Sowore, for coming on the program, and thank you very much for your thoughts. And let's just hope that when next you're in Nigeria, you'll be on DEJI360.
Absolutely. I've watched the program a lot, and I just like I like the ambience and the fact that you're doing what you've always done very well, which is asking hard questions. And you did it on the presidential media chat. I think you were the most prominent voice there in terms of asking very specific hard questions about what the president meant. And I know how difficult it is when you are programmed before you go on a show like that to do what you did.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks so very much for your time. Right. Well, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll round things up. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.